Update 50, the one everyone's been waiting for. In previous videos, I promised that I would bring everybody up to speed on what I'm working on. I am writing 36 books. It's not technically a series, but they all interconnect and take place a series of universes clustered together called the Black Box. That's where that comes from. You see a lot of the same characters across different books, but all of the stories are completely different and start with totally different people. So there are quite literally hundreds of different characters. Hundreds of different main characters occur all across these books. I do have 4 of them written so far, and as I've said. However, none of them are published. The reason that I have not published yet is I don't have a big enough following, and I'm not going to publish until I do. I will publish a hard copy of the book once I have 1,000 handwritten letters asking me to publish. Yes, that's a tall order, and I know how it sounds. It's a lot to ask. I get that. But that's what I'm sticking with. And people can still read all of the books. Those are all on my website. I'm still editing them. I'm not going to stop writing, but I'm not going to make a physical copy of the book until I know that it's going to sell. But I also want to still share the books with everybody, which is why they're available for free on the website. Even if there is one of you out there saying that they would write me a letter, if you want to write me a letter, there's nowhere to send it to. But once I hit 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, I will open a P.O. box and people will be able to send me letters. Hopefully just letters, not anything else. So 2,000 subs and I will open a P.O. box. If you're one of those subscribers, thank you. You are one of the 2,000 steps closer to getting a P.O. box opened. It's always switching to that F chord that is the hardest one. The reason that I haven't written more inside of the 4 years that I've been seriously writing is because I've only been world building. All of the stuff that you've seen me create on the side, the drawings, concept art, world building documents, the personality test that I was creating, conversations with Lazaro, the broadcast, all of these are all just like world building. Some of them aren't even going to make it into the books. They're simply there just for exploration purposes to see what kind of other ideas I could come up with and what I could incorporate. As I said, the Black Box isn't just a single universe, it's a few, but I condensed it down to 90. So there aren't infinite universes, there are only 90 of them. And that's what we're all living in right now. Even further, I've condensed it down to really like 6 of those universes that like all the books happen inside of. So you don't have to keep track of really any. They each have their different names and they're all just numbers because they needed a numerical system to keep track of all the universes. So the whole thing really only happens inside of worlds 12, 16, 24, 27, and 44. A lot of the stories hinge on being able to travel in between these universes and go to different parallel worlds. There are only 90 of them because I was actually world building with a cousin of mine, and we were talking about how it's really annoying that there are always infinite universes and there should be a way to cut them all down so that there's a finite amount, but there's still some variety. We started calling them curves. Essentially, they're just clusters of universes. The Black Box curve is a cluster of 90 universes. Usually curves have like thousands, sometimes millions of universes. So this one is tiny. But it is very palatable that it's 90 because now you can work inside of it and you don't get lost and you're not constantly pulling like, oh, there's me from a different universe. Oh, there's this character from a different universe. It's a lot easier to digest and follow now that it's only 90. I still think that the proper way to write a story is to build the world first and see what stories arise from it. This is how expert story writers have written award-winning stories. Stephen King, he always begins with like a very small thread. For example, I think this was Mr. Mercedes. He said, what if there was a car that had evil intentions and drove itself around? Well, like, what would that look like? And then he built like a world around that first, and then just went to see what the car would do. Studio Ghibli, they don't make like an actual script. The story arises from the world that they built. That's really what has happened here. All of my stories have arisen from random coincidences that I wonder would happen inside of these universes that I've world built. I will make up characters and just say, I think it'd be really cool for this guy to, have these like certain abilities, this kind of a background, and then just let them be. And then like months later, I'll be like, if he met this other guy that I thought up a year ago, it would be like crazy if they had to meet each other. Ways that I've done that are, I have a whole folder actually. It is quite literally called the What If folder. There's just like a bunch of random pieces of paper in here. Let's see. What if there was a monk historian that lived in a monastery on Velder? This one's on the back of a drawing. What if there were two professional assassins who met each other and were huge fans of one another? A story written about a dead person, a music artist who touched many people's lives. What if there was a carpenter who puts together two pieces of wood and they grow together? And then I was like, what? And then I started asking myself, is this because of a power, or is it because of an elastic universe? Or how and when did this happen? This one just says, what if there was someone who bled yellow and spit out mouthfuls of oily yellow? I was like, what the? That one just says a villain with a manifesto. What if there was an old-timey photo that every time you looked at it, it was different? This tea is a day old. It's just random stuff like that crosses my mind, and entire stories have sprung from that. And sometimes they interconnect. Sometimes I'll have all of like multiple what ifs, and then one day I'll just think, I could add all of those together, and that would make an even crazier story. And that's ultimately what makes a good story, is smart people in a particular situation not making any like stupid decisions and still having a terrible outcome. There are tons more what ifs. Maybe I'll read more of them later. Like if you ask me about any of the stories that I've made, they have all come from that question, what if? Like the whole astronomy club came from this scene that I had in my head of like a few middle schoolers running through the woods at night and running away from something in the woods. But like they weren't stupid kids. They weren't running away like without a purpose. They were running away from something. This is something that they needed to do. They had to run away. And I was like, why are they running into the woods? What are they running away from? And then I just started wondering, what is their backstory? And so like almost all of the astronomy club is just their backstory. It's just like kind of like talking about them being middle schoolers. Check it out. It's on the website, all for free. I've scratched the surface of what I've written, what I'm writing, how I write, what I'm working on. And as far as like world building goes and all of the other crazy stuff that I've come up with, I'll kind of release that slowly as we go along. I'll leave you with this. I realized a while ago that no matter how I wrote a story, every single cliche has already been written. Don't worry about that. The thing is, it hasn't been written by you. Middle schoolers running through the woods away from a monster at night. That's just elementary Stephen King, The difference between Stephen King writing that and me writing that is that I wrote it. That cliche hasn't been accomplished in your own style. That's what's different. Messed it up. Pancakes. One big one the other day. I'm at 39 subscribers on YouTube. And if that is 50. We should be somewhere around here. This has been Update 50.